Remember my first case study on growtopia inflation where I made an example of an MMORPG game like Growtopia that had an inflation rate of 1,000,000%? That was 2022. And now, we're ironically getting there. I think it's about time we talk about how inflation kills Growtopia. We've talked about how inflation works, what inflation is, pros and cons, how to solve it, but I feel like I need to emphasize again how inflation kills the game. But to preface this video, the recent market crash in Growtopia is actually quite super alarming. And to those that do not have an idea, I'll just give you an example. A Rayman's Fist now costs about 300 VGLs, a Growy Award now costs about like 400 VGLs. These were like the items back just 5, 6, 7 months ago that costed like 10 or 6 VGLs, and now suddenly it's just at the price range of Phoenix Wings back then, which was like around 60, 70 BGLs. Something that everybody needs to understand is that this is not a mere isolated case of manipulation, because if you go through every single item and buy GHC, each item is like heavily inflated. You'd notice like every expensive item is going over like 200 DLs, over 100 DLs, that used to be like 20, 30 DLs. Everything is just inflated. I even heard that stitches now go for like 2 world blocks each, which for so many years, we considered like a world block per stitch expensive. I'll get into that in a second. We have acknowledged that inflation is a good sign of an active economy, but when it's too much, things could be devalued. We shouldn't strive for deflation either, because I think it's a much more complex issue than inflation, but inflation must be slow. However, for this case, it was really rapid, and I will explain the reasons why it's bad. The first reason is that it increases inequality, and by that I mean it makes it all difficult for the new players to even progress through the game. And while they recently added some sort of progression feature where you have to go through certain farmables in order to level up and yada yada yada, I feel like ever since the beginning, Growtopia lacks the features catered to like new and beginning players. And the most difficult part about it is that right now we're in the middle of a bot crisis, so they're implementing a lot of features to combat them. But tell you what, it's worrying. A player who played in 2025 won't be able to catch up with a player who's played in 2020. And even more, a player who have been playing consistently since 2015. And no matter how much trading, no matter how much massing, no matter how much trade profiting they do, the only way they could get rich realistically and the most quickest way possible is getting lucky in a gacha and investing or some other miracle. But like in traditional methods that many people used to do in 2018, you can't just catch up. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you will say that, yeah, some of you probably have like played at this time, but now you're so ultra rich, yada yada, you got lucky. But to think that the game is so heavily reliant on the element of luck is just making the game a legal virtual gambling site. I'll talk about this in the future in another video, but what I mean really is that it's kind of sad that the best way to participate in the economy is simply by investing or winning a video of the week or a world of the day, and it instantly just makes you ultra rich. The more inflation gets worse, the more difficult it is for an average player to even catch up with the recent times. To put it very simply, what eventually happens is that they would fear FOMO, they would fear difficulty in progression, they would feel like the world is moving too fast, and they would probably lose all the motivation to play the game. But while a person could make an argument that the player should have just worked hard or stayed in touch with the economy, I feel like it's already bad enough that in order to really earn and win in Growtopia, the economy is only your best asset. But let me tell you what, average players will have a more difficult time participating in an economy that is heavily unstable. Let me just share this, but ironically, for the past few years, like 2 years I guess, I've been telling people how the inflation in Growtopia isn't even bad yet, because the way prices are rising feels really slow and feels really natural. And at times it could spike, but this recent one is just practically absurd. Like, it's literally a Jenga that has fallen out of balance. Now, to prove my case further that it increases inequality and that it's not an isolated case of manipulation is because even your average activities like surgery and Wolf World have inflated. I already find it alarming enough to know it from players that some surge tools and even items like legal briefs have inflated so much. Like, who knows how much it actually costs to get Doctor title right now compared to like a few months ago, which people would consider like just somewhere over a BGL. And like a BGL is like a DL in 2022. So if there's the case of even the average activities being inflated or being more expensive, I feel like for those returning players who don't even have much world locks or diamond locks to even get back to the game enough, not only have they been left out with the prices of everything, they can't even participate in the very activities, in the very core features that is supposed to be for the middle class players. Like someone told me, wolf whistles now cost around 60 to 100 world locks when that's like 15 or less than 20 in the lockade. But like, it's pretty much absurd enough how an item that I used to buy for 18 world locks back in June just to complete my grow pass is now about a DL each for a single whistle that I could fail from. That gives me the impression that it's just not worth it. What makes this all difficult from my end is that I've invested all my BGLs into items and I'm afraid to sell them off because I feel like I might regret it later on. But at the same time, I only have a single BGL in my inventory and there's not a lot I can do with a single BGL anymore nowadays. And I feel like that's so sad. Another argument I sometimes hear about is that how this entire thing actually works as an advantage against bots because it makes it difficult for bots to generally profit, it limits their profitability. The problem is though, when profitability becomes difficult for bots, it also becomes difficult for the new players. You kind of have to consider that they're on the same plane, except bots are illegal and newbies are legal, but they're both affected in this situation. That just means gatekeeping growtopia to those who have already started playing it like years ago, but then anyone could make an argument that yeah, growtopia is dying. That's why it should be like this. But this isn't a video to encourage Ubisoft to kill off the game. So like, I don't think I can really support that argument.
Before we proceed, let's talk more about our video sponsor, Music Store. Music Store is a 100% trusted player-made service that allows growtopians to buy and sell song composition formats translated from external sources like YouTube to Growtopia. Their world Music Store is linked to many worlds such as BuySong, Songtopia, Composer List, Japan OST, and so much more. You can join their Discord server over at discord.gg/music store or visit their world Music Store. Thank you once more to Music Store for sponsoring this video.
The second reason why inflation kills growtopia, and I think it's basic knowledge, is because the currency loses its value. BGLs, DLs, world locks become much more cheaper. And I felt like it was okay until BGLs have stooped down low to $2. That's like the price of a deal years ago. And it's alarming for a few reasons. First, because everybody is trading items more than 200 BGLs, and it's gonna be difficult to trade BGLs in like /trade. Eventually, there is a possibility that we could have another currency in the future that basically is a merger of 100 blue gem blocks. The next reason is because the idea of people needing to put all their BGLs in their items because it's like the most safest way out of the economy is like kind of also alarming, because if an average player cannot enjoy their diamond locks, how do they even enjoy the game anymore knowing that it's all in investments? Well, obviously the tactic of like putting all your BGLs into expensive items is mostly advisable for those who would quit the game, but I feel like my point stands. It's kind of scary to think that for an average person that doesn't even know this kind of trick into the economy would easily feel left out, knowing that the value of their net worth has become just a few pieces of world blocks. And I've been thinking about how growtopia in investing is like generally killing the game, contrary to the fact that it ties people to the game, since even if they quit, they could just decide to quit and leave their account, then come back some other time and then realize they're rich and then probably pick up the game. But also I feel like this is the very reason that drives people away, because they know they wouldn't miss out on any features, they wouldn't miss out on any updates, they won't care about any new stuff as long as they get rich. Because that's like the ultimate goal in Growtopia after all. Get rich, and then if one day you're miraculously capable of getting a legendary item, well, then good for you. And for most likely a good chunk of the community, but I can't prove it, they grow out of the game. And when they come back to the game, this just generally leads to higher motivation in engaging in real money trading, aka they cash out. Since Growtopia has such an active black market, and the reason why many players resort to cashing out is because they see value in their own account and they feel like they could turn that into something that's tangible cash that they could use it in their real life interests. So not only they have moved on from Growtopia, they've also earned money from doing so. All of this is sad is because we've come from being okay with building dirt farms to get like 3 to 4 world blocks to massing 12 hours a day and earning a couple of DLs because a YouTuber told us it would be the most profitable method to just solely relying on gambling and investments as like the best way to get ultra rich. In the first place, it's the reason why Growtopia has become such a for-profit game because we have these like very high-end items that we just get from luck and everybody's just competing to become the richest person in Growtopia. Now, I'm not saying that there is no other way to profit in Growtopia nowadays. I absolutely think there are still surviving profit methods that are quite traditional but slow. But like hopefully to some degree, we could be in agreement that there is and has been a shift in how we perceive would be like the best ways to actually earn deals. Because if Growtopia is so anchored on virtual gambling and investing, I feel like we're just living in a simulation of a virtual stock exchange rather than a video game that's supposed to act like an MMORPG. I should be able to enjoy my Growtopia dungeons, but here I am thinking, how much richer will I get? That's all. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below and subscribe.